How do you learn a skill super fast? Like, what is the most optimal, time efficient way to learn a skill? That's a question I've sort of been thinking about a lot lately, especially since I've been doing a lot of playing piano by ear as well as working on Japanese. And I feel like on top of that, I'm working on my audiobook and going out and seeing friends and all that stuff. It's like not enough time in a day. So you kind of have to maximize the time that you do have. So I came up with this list and I'll show you guys right now. And please feel free to add your own input on what you think about this, but this is just a summary right here. So building any skill in the fastest, like, I guess, learning path is how I called it. And I'm thinking like an app would really help with this. So maybe I will try to build something like that eventually, but it's just these four principles right here. Firstly, you break down the fundamental like practice parts for the skill. So for instance, let's use Japanese this time. So Japanese is, when you fundamentally break it down, there's listening, there's speaking, there's writing, there's reading, and that's mostly it right there. Like that's for those four things for the language. Of course, there's like subcategories within those things, but so you might want to break it down even further, like writing kanji, for instance, or writing hiragana or katakana or something where it's like even deeper. And then discover point of diminishing returns repetition amount for each fundamental practice part. So that would be basically like, let's say you're working on kanji, like, and you want to learn how to read it. I talked about this before, which is input and output is probably a very, very good technique. So you want to be able to not just read like the visual input, but you want to be able to output it as well, which is to write it. So when we're talking about kanji and putting it through that, you need to find out how many times can you write this kanji. Well, at first you probably don't know how to write it at all if it's a hard kanji. So you have to like trace it almost, like look at it, write it, look at it, write it. So keep doing that until you can do it without any visual aid. So you can just generate it from nothing. And then, it might be like a little bit hard at first, and then you do it like 10 times and you're like, oh, this is getting easier and easier. And it feels like now I can just do it. I can just generate this kanji from nothing, right? Because I can recognize each part of it. I feel each part of it. And then after you do that, you've reached the point of diminishing returns. And that's when you move on to either another kanji word or another practice, whatever you're doing. But basically, you want to rep it, get enough quality repetitions until it feels like there's no point in doing this because I'm not furthering like anything. I can already do it. So, and then you repeat that the next day or some time afterwards to reinforce what you learned. And then at a certain point, it becomes like you don't need to repeat it as much because it's so easy. So like if you can do it the first time, right? Just generate it immediately. It's like you're good. Like you're basically already at the point of diminishing returns because you know how to do it. It's like us writing anything, like writing any of these letters, right? We know we don't need to practice writing these letters, but maybe I need to practice like writing them cleaner and nicer. But like I can spell everything and I'm fine. I don't need to practice it. So any further practice, I've already reached the point of no returns because I'm not gaining anything from it. So that's sort of like what I reasoned as the first thing you should do is break it down to the fundamentals and then keep repping the fundamental part until you reach that diminishing returns. And then, like I said, practice daily and rep it to the optimal amount, which is the same thing basically as diminishing returns, and then move on to the next practice if you can pass like a proficiency test, basically. So you kind of have to devise your own proficiency test depending on what it is, and then you'll need to review it eventually. So I said like maybe weekly. Like if it's kanji, then you add it to a list, and then like a week later, if you can still write it perfectly the first time, just move on. And then for number 4, move on to next practice part and repeat 2 through 4. And number might change in terms of like how many reps you need. So it's not always going to be the same amount of repetitions. So you kind of have to like always feel out like, okay, like when am I at diminishing returns? When have I reached the optimal amount? And you'll know based on the proficiency test and whether or not you feel like doing more will actually help you. So this is sort of like what I reasoned as the best method for practice. And the reason why I have been thinking about this a lot mainly is for practicing playing by ear, because yesterday my practice session was like 10 minutes of listening and then 10 minutes of like trying to come up with a good arrangement for it, 10 minutes of like doing a random song and practicing the intuitive guessing method, and then a different like fundamental practice after that. And I'm like, I'm just spending 10 minutes on each of these, but it feels like I'm not improving. It feels like this is too little time. And so because I felt that, I was like, I need a better practice method. I need to restructure and rethink how I practice, because I don't think I'm going to get anywhere if I keep practicing like this. So that's what I came up with. And the way I'm going to try to practice now is focus on the most important fundamental skills first. And I think for Japanese, that would be listening. And for playing by ear, it's also listening, actually. So it's like practicing active listening skills where you're able to replicate what you hear. So if it's for Japanese, I mentioned this in a different video, so I won't talk about it too much here, but if it's Japanese, then it's like you can hear a whole sentence and you can repeat that whole sentence. Even if you don't know what it means, you can still concretely hear each word. So that's like the level you want to get to for Japanese, because it's going to make everything easier. Like words are just going to feel more solid in your mind. And then for playing by ear, that's the same thing I need to reach. I need to be able to hear a phrase of a song, the melody line or whatever, and then sing it back, like accurately, the whole sentence, the whole phrase, and maybe expand that to be 2 phrases at some point. And at the point it reaches 2 phrases, it's actually like pretty solid, because most songs are generally have maybe like a section A, a section B, sometimes a section C. So if you can do 3, then you'd likely be able to play a lot of songs by ear, assuming you have the rest of the skills. But the first part is to actively listen and be able to like accurately replay it in your head at a certain point. But the first part is to actually sing it out loud. Yeah, connects to a different video I'll make eventually, which is about how you're bridging the gap between mind and realities, where you're able to output things in your mind instead of just physically. Because I do feel like sometimes you can sing things and just have no connection to what you're actually singing. Same with like talking. You can like repeat things but have no connection to the meaning or like what you're actually trying to say. And I feel like that's not gonna help you. So same thing applies to what I'm talking about. Basically, you have to have like a level of understanding or grasp of what you're actually saying or like meaning behind it. And when I say that for Japanese, it's like you don't necessarily need to have the definition, like I said earlier, but it still needs to feel like a distinguishable construct or distinguishable word, basically. So it's not like meaning or definition exactly. It's more so just like a solid thing in your mind that feels different. It's hard to describe, but lately I've been noticing that trend a lot, which is like you have to activate your brain to really feel the thing as like a solid construct versus just like a sound or yeah. I will get better at explaining that eventually, but hopefully you guys know what I mean. But that's basically it in terms of how I'm planning on working on learning skills faster. Right now, I'm basically just going to apply it to Japanese and playing by ear, but in the future, I will try to also keep that in mind for newer skills that I want to learn. So basically, to summarize, just put in as many quality reps as possible for the most important fundamental skill. And once you get, you know, decent enough at a certain level, you're like, I'm really good at the skill now, but I need the rest to actually be able to do like the whole skill. So you move on to the second most important fundamental skill, get really good at that, point of diminishing returns, and then you move on to the next one after that. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you can do the whole skill like all together really well because your fundamentals are just really, really good. So that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. Because lately I've been learning kanji for Japanese, and I feel like I'm doing it so inefficiently. It's like I just try a word or something, or I'm using an app for it, and the review section is like, it just generates what you've already learned as a review, and then you try it once, you fail it, and then it moves on to the next one. And I'm like, I feel like that's so inefficient. If I failed it, I should probably redo it until I can do it, And it feels like so scatterbrained and so like inefficient that I was like, this is not right. This does not feel like I'm actually going to learn all the kanji this way. It feels way too messy. Like I need to repeat this until like I know it, Because I do have to like actually draw in the kanji in the right stroke order and everything. And it's like super inefficient if it moves on to a different kanji and then comes back to this one that I made a mistake on like 5 kanjis later, and I make the same mistake. It's like, it's pointless. It's so inefficient that I can't stand it almost. But anyways, yeah, these are random thoughts and feelings at this point, but it relates to like learning more efficiently. Yeah, there's one thing I can't stand, it's inefficiency. Like there's something that just feels so wrong about it. Anyways, that's basically this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you guys have any ideas or tips on how you think learning faster should look like. Okay, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.